Okay. All right. And then let me go over here. There's Judith's beautiful face. Let me make sure. Oh, we got people in the house. If you come in, please give us a heart so we can know you're here. Thank you for your patience as we're building this. We're still in our infancy. We're still wearing diapers, but we're going to get there. And thank you, everybody, for showing up. I'm really excited. We haven't seen Judith in a long time. And she's, to me, like many people, a big part of Soulogy, because Soulogy is just really a name for the Holy Spirit or universal energy, or just our, way of trying to get through all this. And before I push record and before we push live, Judith was telling us about the I guess the power rationing in South Africa and the stress that it causes in your life. And I'm thinking about this in the last few days, and I'm not into, I realize whatever we're getting into, we're prepared and have been being prepared for it. And this is a momentous time. So we have to be ready for anything. And I was actually thinking about the power grid going out and where I would be spiritually and soulfully. And then you're telling me, I'm like, oh, you look great. And you're like, it's dark in here and the lights might come back on in a minute. And I'll have to get up and turn the main lights on. And then you were telling me how stressful it is. I mean, even as a human, that would be obviously be stressful, but somebody that's awake and aware and doing the things you've been doing all these years, that's got to even affect you there, doesn't it?
It does affect you, whether you like it or not. It's affecting the whole nation, and the thing is, what really makes it more exasperated is that the people who rule the country, they don't have load shedding. It's the rest of us.
Are you serious?
Yes, they don't have load shedding. Even my sister, she lives it, and one of the members of parliament lives in her area, and they've got no load shedding. So it's really discriminatory in a lot of ways. But, it's really bad because, we were off 8 hours the other day, and then we are off 4 hours and 4 hours on, and and then you're 2 hours off, and sometimes they just in the middle of a day decide, okay, all the things have crashed, now we're off suddenly, on times we didn't sort of budget, well, you didn't schedule in, because now you've got to do everything when there's electricity, like wash your clothes and everything that you can, before the electricity goes off. And then sometimes it just doesn't go on like now when it should have been on. And so you never know where you are with the whole thing. And it's basically mismanagement. And it's basically because they did not, since 1994, repair anything. And they didn't plan ahead, because the power stations are very old now. And you must remember that more and more people are using power. It's the cell phones, it's the computers, it's all those things that people use now that they didn't use in the 70s when those power stations were built in South Africa. It's crazy. Because it's bringing us, I sometimes think to myself, even as a child, we had electricity, when I was born. And now we're going back to even before that, because you've got to use in emergency, because you want to, especially in winter, you want to have at least cooked food or something, then you've got to use gas appliances, like you've got one of those camper gases that you actually boil your things on. And you use candles, you use LED lights, which you basically have to recharge afterwards with electricity. And then you also have got to, make sure that you have got an inverters, or you've got one of those generators, to actually bring electricity in, because all the businesses have generators now because they cannot function without them. And you stand in the shop and suddenly, you're in dead darkness until the generator kicks in. So it's really crazy. And I was just standing there, and they said to me, well, this is all the great collapse. And I can see that in my country, people are forced to put solar panels in. But even the solar panels are not the solution, because, as I said, when the sun doesn't shine, you sit with a problem. And when it's overcast, you can't recharge the jolly thing. So it's really it's putting a stress, enormous stress on the economy, because people are losing their businesses, people are losing their jobs. So it's a whole social problem that is coming out of this.
Wow.
All in all.
Well, there's so much in that story. I mean, there's so many things there. Because one of the things I've noticed is how would you say, the disclosure. The disclosure, but not like all the, the stuff we've talked about over the years, but more like they're just putting it right in your face. Like, so it's like they don't have to, those who are in parliament, etc., those in power, you would say, they don't have to suffer, but the other people do, and it's just right in your face. And then the other thing it makes you kind of see is this another control mechanism? Are they, trying to, I mean, how does a country that, I mean, that's not like a third world country. I mean, they've got some money there and have for years and years. So, but like, okay, so let's bring this back. How do you go through these things, have these dynamics put upon you? You're getting the information, they're telling you what we're all clearly seeing. It is the great collapse, but in the middle of this great collapse, there's all these little souls that are just becoming these huge beings of awareness and consciousness. But still, you're in the human body and you're going through this stuff. How do you get through it? Do you get frustrated? Do you just say to heck with it sometimes?
I do get frustrated. I mean, everybody does. I mean, you're human. You're trying to get your job done. It's not that. And you see the craziness of it all. There are solutions, I mean, it's just, but the thing is, you can't build a power stations in 1 year. You've got to, it takes 15 years to build one. And if you haven't built them for all the years, how the heck are you going to build a power station out of nothing? It's that type of thing, that you realize, oh my goodness, But on the other hand, it's actually pulling people together. People are helping each other. I must say, the other day my inverter gave in, and the IT guys were on it immediately. They even gave me, a power bank so that I could at least have my internet, even though I couldn't use my laptop then. I mean, I had to sort of look at my battery of my laptop didn't go down, in the meantime, before I could recharge it. And, but it's also having an effect on all the IT people, whatever, because they've got to recharge. The service provider for the internet, they've got to recharge, the batteries, because their batteries only last so long and not more. It has an effect on the whole infrastructure, the whole municipalities, because if there's no electricity, they cannot pump water. So now we've got the cholera outbreak in South Africa. So all these illnesses are coming, and because, the whole system is not, is cranking up. It's not working. And yet we have gold mines, we have got platinum lines, we've got uranium lines, we've got diamond lines, we've got, you name it, we've got it. So the riches are there.
Yeah.
And it's not that the resources are not there, but it's to me, it's a shift that needs to come in humanity, where we have to unify and understand that if we don't stand together, we're not going to survive all of this. It's a great awakening, in a sense that we're all in this together. Now let us make plans. And to really, I mean, South Africans are making plans. Look, there's some of them that make a killing now with all of these alternative systems that they're busy, inventing now. And they are inventing technologies that are helping, to sort of alleviate, because people are forced to. But still, it brings out the questions is, how long are you going to have people, having systems in place like governments and so on, and not do their job, not care for people? Where is that basic caring? Where's the basic kindness? You won't see any of the ministers going into the township where the people are suffering. I mean, some of them haven't got even the bare necessities, especially in winter. Where do you see them actually going into those places and actually going and speaking to the people and saying, we are helping you. How can we help you? Okay. It to me is with, Africa's got such humaneness in it. The people on the ground are helping each other. Really, South Africans are opening their hearts, but the top structures, it's not doing it. And that's where the cracks are coming in now.
Yeah.
Where the cracks are coming in. Because you cannot actually go and rule a country if you haven't got an open heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's the whole shift coming in, If you want to be president of a country, fine, be it. But go and fulfill the promises that you make to your people. Yeah. Go and be the elder, the wise elder that is leading your people with love and with wisdom and with that deep feeling for them, Even say, I will go without if you are going without, but we will find a solution here for the greater goal. That is not, I've learned to bless the government with everything else. And I've learned now to just let go of what I am not in charge of. You understand? I can bless them. I can say, fine, I can send in the violet flame. I can send in whatever, and understand that is their path that they also got to learn, and somehow or other they're playing out their role perfectly. Yeah. Even if they're playing out their roles to there's a light going on now. Okay. But they also have a role to play to bring humanity back to the truth. The truth that if we really want to create a new earth and a new golden age, it is in unity.
Do you think
yeah. Okay, go on.
I'm sorry.
Can I switch on the lights if you don't mind?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Wow, this is fascinating. Really fascinating. And on so many levels. How's it going, everybody? We're about to kick up the programming, by the way. Getting a bunch of shows scheduled. Thank you for your patience and us building this from our infancy. I wonder how many other countries are going through stuff like this.
Hey, you're on. I think you can see me now more clearly.
Yes. I mean, this is so amazing. Well, it just made me think when you were talking. I mean, at the end of the day, all of these people, whether they be us here or the people that are in the high levels of the government or power, like say in a country like South Africa, we're all souls. Do you think that people in that structure, on the inside of the matrix, I mean, really, it's coming out in America too. It's every day. Do you think they think like we do? Do they want to? Yeah, they don't, do they?
The thing is, if your heart is closed, you don't feel.
Yeah.
If you look at it, a lot of them now, they're actually making up and saying, oh, they want to implant this in humanity and they want to do that and so on. They want to take humanity out of humanity.
Yeah, they want to.
And that is exactly what Atlantis did. What happened with Atlantis? They destroyed themselves. So we're sitting at a very crucial moment here, where we say, okay, do you want to go the same old path as before, with Atlantis? Because all the Atlantean souls have incarnated again. Yeah. And also, you cannot take the humaneness out of humanity. I was listening to I was reading something the other day. It was some of the discourses of Saint Germain. It's a book that was written in 1930 when this whole shift was already predicted. And he said something very, very interesting there. he said that every atom in our bodies, every cell, every DNA strand is programmed to hold the soul. So in other words, it's not just there by accident, but every cell and every DNA strand and every atom is already plugged into the greater of a creation. And he said that when humanity evolves, they will be able to live out the truth that their atoms and their DNA and their cells actually have within them, because that connects directly with your soul. So in other words, you can then basically, and what they're doing now, and that was told me afterwards, is they're busy reprogramming our cells. They're busy with all the light body now forming, that nucleus is being actually reconstructed so that we not only can assume our light body, but we can then be in that state of such oneness that we cannot create disharmony and disunity anymore. But what he also said is, if you cannot shift in your own mastery, so that eventually you'll have, like, you can actually command your own cells and your own atom, you have not reached mastery yet.
Powerful. God, it's only been 18 minutes and it's already deep. Well, I shouldn't be surprised, but last night I like to write, you know that. And I've been trying to break in, like a lot of us, there's these streams of yourself coming out and you're trying to find them. Things are changing. So I started writing this last night, and I don't even know what it is. And I'm going to tie it to this. I must have been merging with you or something, because I could feel this. I could even feel like tears coming up. So it starts out like this. I asked my friend, my brother, Franco De Nicola, many times, does the human being aspect, you know, the multidimensionality, have a soul? And he would say, well, no, but sort of. Now, this is an incarnated soul I could write 10 books about, and then I'm going to write a bunch of stuff about him, I guess. So the point is, not Franco or any other incarnated human being knew then or now the answer to that question. Like, okay, so we're growing in awareness, a conscious understanding that we are creating from our thoughts, a very extraordinary reality. Call it the Trinity energy, life force, Holy Spirit, Chi. It's permeating collectively. I believe we are explorers, paramount to all we know or what we think we know. Innately, we know. Truths, trust to believe. Life's unforgivable offering, the greatest unknown. It's in our DNA. The memories, unlocking code and higher knowing, what the Essenes called gnosis.
Yeah.
So every one of our aspects that we're reconnected to have a specialty, a bias, if you will, an agenda, okay, for the light. You know, we've been given the potential to rectify all the rifts, bridge all the gaps, all aspects of our intentions, every timeline and dimension by the choices we make as a consciously aware human being, given this knowledge. And now we're going to be put into circumstances that we don't know. It's like going into the void, going into the mother's womb. And I love what you represent, you know, in the moment as an example, because that's really it. I mean, I don't see it any other way. This thing about being present isn't a choice anymore. So this is all we have right here.
I was told that because, you know, I've been through a very tough months, you know, the last few months, really bad. No, not bad, but I mean, you know, it's always the big initiations that come where you are challenged on all fronts that actually shift you into a higher dimensional state. Because that is when your true worth comes out in a lot of ways. And the last 2 weeks, I just had this immense breakthrough. And it was just all, like you say, to actually claim your divinity in the greatest degrees, to claim your worthiness of your divinity, to claim your godliness that is within you, which is, of course, in every cell and atom and everything that you were ever created for. And to me, that brings us back to the responsibility everyone has to work on themselves in all degrees. Because for me, the last few months, it's so interesting with this France book of mine that's actually been released now. Because when I look back on my journey where I was led to actually heal on so many levels and heal the land and release trauma and pain and suffering, in a lot of ways, it took me years to just write that book because I had to sort of heal on so many levels with all the strands that I had with other souls, in that whole thing. And now I'm getting this feedback from this book, okay, because that happened in 2016 and even before when my Africa book was born, when I first awakened to all of this. And now people say the book is healing them as they're reading it. And interestingly, I had to go, and I woke up at 2:00 in the morning, and I was told to get the book out. I've only got one copy because I'm still waiting for the printers here in Cape Town to send me my books, because they were losing 5 hours a day in working hours because of the load shedding and more. So they couldn't keep their printing going, their machines going, and whatever. And I actually went and got the book because this is the APRA copy that hit. And I had to take the book and I had to lay it literally on the altar and have it infused with light. And they said to me, that is what you're releasing to the world now, and it will impact on the world. And it's nothing to do with me, you understand. But then I understood that all those strands of what we did before, like we were prepared for this time. Mm-hmm. Now we are in that stage. We are being initiated into a higher consciousness state because we all are growing tremendously out of all of this. And as you say, it's like we are not only the cells and the atoms, etc., but look at how souls, where we now need to connect to the truth of our souls at a higher degree and understand we're not helpless. Yeah. We're not helpless. This has to dissolve. Actually, I was listening to a wonderful conversation between Greg Braden and John, I think it's Masterton, where they were talking about the prediction that has been made, and this prediction has actually been very accurate. And it was saying that 2015, the whole of Europe and America would collapse. And in the end, what they say was so beautiful. They said, but there is the new earth coming out of it, because people will move now into communities, like-minded communities. What you are creating here is already a like-minded community, you see, and I find that bringing together of those communities, and they will bring those community under one umbrella. So there's a whole new rising out of that, which I actually said is the new earth. And I thought to myself, is not beautiful? So again, it's showing you that the collapse is coming. We're already experiencing it. Yeah. But in this collapse, the core is rising. Yeah. Because the outcome has already been set. When the divine declares an outcome, it's there. Nobody can change it. So these people that are still in the matrix, they playing out their role, but that matrix does not exist anymore. And when this realization came, I actually had to go and make a decree that all that is null and void. Every oath, every vow, everything I ever made through all eternity is now null and void. I did that and can actually feel how so much has been released. And wow. It just shows you that whoever you were before, all the personas that you ever took on in any lifetime, even beyond this, that is interplay between souls. We're now being released from that if we choose from that.
Yes. Yes. And, I think for you, I mean, you've been doing this for so long, and your, experience and your awareness of things, a lot of people are starting to break through into these spaces, and I'm finding that a lot of people's experiences and intel and transmissions are converging, like third eye, experiences or whatever that may be. But I know in this past week, this doesn't normally happen to me, but again, this kind of ties into what you were saying, because I laid down and then they were like, you're going to go to Lyra. And I said, Lyra. So I started approaching Lyra, and there was all this static. Like I could feel the energy of conflict and, things that hadn't been resolved. So then it started feeding me all the information. So basically it was a storyline of multidimensional incarnations where, I was all these different personas, different beings or whatever. And like the first one was Anunnaki. And as I'm approaching Lyra, I'm like, wait, why are they mad at me, or what, and I was like, oh, I'm an Anunnaki. I'm not an Anunnaki. They're like, no, you were then, and then you were this, and then you were that, and then this. But tying it back to what you said, there were all these, all these entanglements, and they were not just me. They were my families, and they were my soul tribe, and they were, and I'd see Morgan here, and I'd see her there, and there, and then I'd see this person and that person, and there was all these things that were entangled. And I was being told, along the lines of what I was writing earlier, that by every decision, every thought, every word, every moment I can sustain grace, and just as a human being, fully aware of multidimensionality, and it's coming in my body, that solves everything. And then the last thing I got was kind of like this is how I would have come, if I was talking to myself, it'd be like, okay, you've got enough information now. There's not really anything, it's your choice. Do you want to elevate, expand, and be a part of this? Or do you want to just say, to heck with it, I'm tired, let me go home? And I said, no, I want to stay here. And it just became very obvious that there's only one way to live now. And starting the show with you telling us what's going on, I'm wondering how many countries is this happening? I mean, it's obvious, regardless of who's behind what, it is the deconstruction. And this is where we rise. And I love the way you put it. And if you think about it, and I've not really thought about it, I'm kind of ashamed to say, but it is the initiations that bring the higher consciousness, for all of us, the dark nights of the soul. So, but I guess what I would end with is, at the same time, do we or do we not have an influence on what occurs at this point? Or is there just certain things? Yeah.
We are. And about the Lyra, you must remember that they were involved in the wars of heaven, like all the galaxies in this universe were involved in the wars of heaven.
Yeah, that's what the whole story was. It was Orion.
So we already came with that baggage when they actually find. So that baggage has come with us.
Yes.
Right. That I always before the Anunnaki came, there was a Lion Kingdom.
Yes.
And so the Lion Kingdom were the lion people from Lyra. They have feline features with these beautiful hair like you have. That's why you're one of them.
Yes.
They very much making their presence felt lately. I had to deal in the last few months so much with Egypt again. And I was like, why am I always getting back to Egypt? And I really didn't like my trip in Egypt. It was really hard going, and I couldn't handle the energy of Egypt, because Egypt has fallen, and it is from grace, definitely. When they were in a very high state, after Atlantis, they held the light steady, but then they really went, in a deep way. And but that's that by the but. On the other hand, the light has never gone out. It's just sort of if you really wish to experience the light, it's there, But again, it's your soul. It's nothing else of that. But anyway, so and then I asked myself why I was always brought back to Egypt. And they said, well, Egypt connects to the Lion Kingdom, and that is where and the Lion Kingdom connects to the walls of heaven. So for myself, okay. To me, this is beautiful, because it means that all that was done then, and all that was ever written in that frame, and all we experienced that, is now also in a state of collapse.
Right.
Because the universe is also now are going through this transition into the higher state. And then our solar system is, and then our galaxy is. So the whole of the universe is now moving into a higher evolutionary state of consciousness, because the whole of creation is a spiral. It goes up and up and up, and you just go through the tiers of all those different consciousness levels inside. So, and that is why we can only come to the state of a transfiguration now, if we are tuned in.
Yes.
Because that is where we find our power, is from the tuning in. And that is why nothing can actually withhold you from that, except you yourself. And it's normally when fear comes in, when you start getting panicky about things, because, we all in a measure taught to control things. We like to have our hands on things. And that is exactly what has been taken out of our hands now.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And God, we must have been talking last night or something, because
I was feeling you.
I think I was tired last night, but I remember feeling, I remember it. But yeah, what you just said, I remember hearing last night. You know what? This is all, I've always tried to be open, because I know that I know that what's being asked of me is to be purely transparent, and we're all getting there. But yeah, leaving social media, getting that guidance on March the 1st, the way it all happened so fast, it was like just coming into June, getting spit out. Like that period, I think for humanity itself was powerful. March, April, May, that Pleiadian gateway that came in the middle of last month, that went through the end of the month, was huge. The multidimensionality, the downloads, the awareness of how you're seeing things differently. I mean, there's all kinds of things happening. But I've found myself in this space where it's very weird. It's strange. But you can feel the multidimensionality. You can feel the sacredness. You can feel your connection to it. But it's very strange, and I'm not used to it. So there's some fear. And last night I heard fear will break your will. And I just kind of, like, when I heard that, I went, oh no, that's not happening. Whatever happens, it's not going to be out of fear. And so it struck me, because it was pretty loud. And I hadn't really felt fear like that in a while. So I can feel something big coming, like, or it's here, or whatever. It's here, really. I mean, like
it's testing us to the core, yeah. But you see, the thing is, I find that I need to every morning now affirm certain things. And they say to me, it's now the time to put foundations down. So you are doing that. You're putting the foundations down for that greater net or whatever, so that whenever the rest collapses, because it's bound to collapse, you know,
Yes.
it's there will be doorways opening so that the work we are doing will not collapse. It will actually grow. That's basically what they said to me.
Yeah.
They said expansion. And they said, remember that expansion has no boundaries. In other words, you still think within that framework, because we've been taught that way. We've been from childhood that this is possible and that isn't possible. But we're getting now to the stage where everything is possible.
Right.
But our mind here says, oh, nothing is possible. You can't do that. It's impossible. But the soul says, I am possible because I've been everything and everything's been me and I am everything and everything is me. So to me, it was getting back into the heart space and also say, okay, my soul can expand in any direction it chooses. But please help me here so that because we can't do this on our own, but we have all the support that we needed. And we will be helped through this. But it's always to anchor ourselves into that state where we say, well, your will and my will become one and the same. It's a deep surrendering and saying, okay, when you surrender, you don't lose your power. It just means that you become one with the greater power. Yeah. Now it's just not just you, little one, trying to do something, but the greater master plan is busy being fulfilled. And you are the ones that is busy slotting in exactly where it needs to happen. I was shown the sun disks the other day because, massive sun disks are being returned to Earth. They are like huge conscious awakening devices, for the better words of it. They are actually living beings. If they, this goes beyond our little human brains. That's right. They are actually consciousness manifestations that hold the keys and codes of illumination for the new golden age. And people talk about the solar flares. Okay, fine, they are affecting us in whatever way. But these sun disks are actually something that are ancient because they come back from the first time everything was created. And they are awakening our consciousness now to that universal and omniversal levels where we cannot play small anymore. And that goes with every single individual. You cannot play small anymore. It's a time for great expansion where everything is possible. Nothing is impossible. But because we always think of, oh, I'm just little me, I'm just little me on little earth. Mm-hmm. Your soul is not. Your soul is infinite. And your soul has actually chosen to be here at this time, to be here at this exact moment, to bring that greater understanding and the greater consciousness to planet Earth, each one in their own way. Because not all of us are going to stand at the front rows and lead humanity. You also need the other ones to actually do all the work, in everything in life. There's always the little workers that help the rest of it. So finding it. And that's in our cells. If you look in the cells, there's those little ones that we've got to go moving up and down and put all the work together so that your cell can function and stay healthy. So, yes, it's scary. But, we're made of greater things than this.
Yeah. Yes, and I think it's being shown to us. I hear a lot of different stories, and the other things, just what I call physical synchronicities, like they're just no longer just numbers. It's like things happen, like glitching to a higher frequency or something like that. But it's really, to me, it's really indescribable. I can tell about experiences, and I fall short trying to describe it, but I would say two things. One, which you really bring out, and so I know it's never a mistake when we get together, but it's the truth. Like, it's all me. This is no longer just a cliche. It's not just something that you read in a book. This is all me. And what happens is on me. It's taken this whole deeper dive into, I know who I am. I know that. But even deeper, where are your prejudices? Where are your biases? Not in your political opinions and this and that. It's in your words. It's in your stances. It's in your energy. It's in the walls you put up. It's in the way you communicate or don't communicate. And it's mind-blowing, because the awareness is there. It's like all these other senses are coming on board, but beneath it all is that seed of creator, of creation, and the masculine creator that we've always had. You know, when people say to me, oh, we're going to go back to Atlantis and I'm like, why? We screwed up. We're here trying to fix this all. This is how we do it. We're in the same spot we were before, and many times, you know, and what did we not do? What is the one thing that we have never done? And that is to give into this unlimited, not impossible, totally possible thing that we could best describe, say, as love or unity consciousness or oneness embodied. And I really got that in a session last week, where I was standing on the new Earth grid. My body went into the Earth. I became Mother Earth, which has never happened to me, ever. And then I shot up, going through the different densities, I would say, or dimensions. And then I popped out of the universe, and I'm up there, and I'm looking at all these realms, all these other universes. And it was like, and then of course stuff came in or whatever, I don't remember, but then I went whoosh. And when I went back, all of that kind of merged with, I thought, what is going on here? Is there submerging? And then I realized, no, wait, I'm Mother Earth, and I'm this Father God or architect or something. Boom. And it was like this big merge. And then it was like somebody just went, like, popped me on the butt or the back and went, okay, now you take that with you in every moment. That's just a little bit of what y'all are. That's just a little bit of it. You take that and you conduct your life accordingly to what you know is neutrality, what you know is unity consciousness. I mean, that kind of information, I mean, it just is a guy's story, but it's literally changed my life. This is changing our lives, like at least once a week, maybe once a day now. It's like you wake up and go, okay, wait a minute. And then you hear your friends in a blackout in South Africa, and you start to wonder about all the other, you know, things in the world that are deconstructing and the hardships that it could be causing, but, you know, so it's really, yeah, I think it takes the best of the best to be here today. And maybe I'm biased and maybe I'm prejudiced, but this has got to be the toughest, one of the toughest, if not the toughest.
Yes, yes, yes. But the thing is, there's more light workers now than there ever been before.
Yeah.
The light that it has already swung, you know, in that degree. So in other words, the outcome is already there. It's, to me, it is a daily business, a daily and nightly business now, because I see it for myself, you know, within one day, you can go through 1,000 sort of like things that are twirling or in and around you. And that is why you need to be anchored. You got to be, you know, that's why it's so important to ground yourself into Mother Earth, because you must remember that Mother Earth is much bigger than we are, and she's connected to the solar system and to the Milky Way galaxy and to the university through vibrations and frequencies of sound, and also through all the interconnectedness energetically, whatever it is. So to me, it always is bringing me back to the core truth. And sometimes our souls have got to be cleaved open to that very core in order for us to see the truth and to feel the truth and to be the truth. It's so interesting because I was doing a webinar last week on the life of Mary Magdalene and also the greater implements, you know, whatever came in there. And what really has come to the fore now is this whole power of love, you know, the power of love that's infinite, because we were all created in love and with love. We are love in the truth, the highest sense. It's the greatest power in the universe is love. There is no greater power than love. But there it comes again to that power of a love of self in all its humaneness. That means our beautiful sensitivity, our beautiful feeling, our beautiful way of being able to express beauty and being in the state of beauty. And also to always seek that higher state in everything that we are and what we do and what we try to put out there. And that is what has come to me is you are what you think. What are your thoughts? You are your words, what you speak. Are your words and you are your actions or not the actions you do not take. And if your thoughts and your words and your deeds do not align, then you are not in alignment.
Yeah, that's true. And it's becoming loud. It's becoming, I mean, on one hand, I look at it as a convergence. Like, what are the things that are purposeful in my life or whatever mean the most to me, and to bring them all together in one. That was the thing that I did mention about that experience I had in the session. It was, I understand now more than ever, and so it's kind of like no excuses, that there's nothing, it's better for me to work with what I have in front of me and work in unison to transform that. Because it's all energy, it's all me, right? What people, places, things, than to push this one aside for another day or this one aside for another day, as we have in the past. And like you said, there's a certain crossroads here of surrender and will. And it's like, in some weird way, my will is not the creator. My will is not that. Life is about giving up my will, you could say. Even though that sounds very strange, but it's that part of me that knows it's unique, that knows it has its own soul signature, but also knows that this isn't about me. And so not being in a situation where you're not in alignment with that is a sign of you know, being out of alignment, but it's also a great opportunity for transparency and communication. But it's a lot of light. You know, we think when somebody gets their heart cracked open, you know, that doesn't sound yeah, but that's a huge light that comes up. I recently, and I talked about this, I'm not going to go deep in it, but I have 12 years to the day when Yeshua came in the trees. This was on May 30th. But they explained to me that everything from the 21st of December 2022, that was the end of the 10-year Mayan period. It's a new world. And this is the first, you're going to see the same cycles. You're going to see the same rhythms, the same spiral. And literally, I'm doing it in the same neighborhood, in the same town, 12 years later, 12 being a very important number. And it would be different or something like that. May 31st, the day after that, it'd been 6 years since I seen my mother. And like many family members that we could relate to, we have antagonists in our lives, and we know from soul's eyes, that's not, we know the truth. But we hadn't spoken. And a lot of history, 6 years. I had sent her a note and said, may I take you to Mother's Day dinner? But we couldn't do it, so we did it on the 31st. And nothing had to be said. Nothing had to be said. We both showed up. Love doesn't have to speak. There's a part of us we can look in each other's eyes and we can be there like that. Any of us. And yeah, it sounds crazy. Oh, how's that going to stop the bombs? And it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. And that's it. And that's a tough thing to do, but we can do it. Every one of us can do it. Yeah.
Because there's soul to soul. You see, there's no restrictions.
Yeah.
There's no ego that can come in the way. There's no judgment.
That's the key.
Because your soul meets the soul of the other, and there's a merger of soul. That's basically what is the new earth.
Yeah.
I've always been told that is what the new relationships will be like. Because now when you can actually read each other's thoughts, and it's written here on your forehead, you can't lie anymore.
No, you
and
can't.
in a truthful relationships, you can't hide anymore either, because you are who you are. And it's our relationships have been to hide from each other. Now we can't hide anymore. Because as I am, I am. I am the truth of who and what I am in truth, and I live it. That I am is now so going to come to the fore, because you are who you are. And the thing is, if I am meets the I am and the other, we're one and the same. There's no difference. But we can only come that in the state of purity.
Yes.
The purity of who we are, the purity of intent, the purity of all that is pure. It's see-through. You cannot hide anymore, because every speck of dirt will actually start showing up.
Yeah.
And if you look back in the ancient mystery school teachings, that's exactly what they taught.
It's go ahead.
Go.
I don't know why. So it'll be 12 years about this time next month. I believe on 7/7. That's the day I went homeless by my choice. And that's sitting there and I'm going, what is that part of the spiral? But I see that not as to the man. I see it to the, as the individual goes, so goes the collective. I just feel it. I felt it in last month. I said, there's going to be a pop. I could feel it, and it happened. I wonder how many people are having these conversations that because it looks like there's more and more. I mean, a lot more. Like young kids. I mean, I see these TikTok videos. They're talking about all kinds of stuff. But how many people, like even my mother, 83 years old, has a COVID in, I think, last August, has COVID for a month, long COVID. 83 years old, goes to the doctor as soon as she's clear, and 2 days later she has a quadruple bypass. She's telling me this, that 3 days later she walks out of the hospital and she never felt any pain, not there, not when she got home, nothing. And she goes, how can that be? And then the other comment she made to me, because she was referring to her body, that just doesn't make sense, right? Then she was telling me, obviously she knows my story, and she said to me, like only a mother can say it. She said, all this that you've been through the last 12 years, you've been prepared. And you're being prepared right now because it's here. Now, she doesn't buy into all the, you know what I mean? But how many people at a, at a conscious level know that?
There is a huge awakening coming this year like never before. I've been told. And what they said now is that these other years were but a preparation.
Yeah.
And we have all been through the mill and back again, and the grinding mills, and even more that. And
Yeah.
and what they said is, be prepared now to step fully into leadership roles. Yeah. And I thought to myself, wow, I thought I was already.
I'm getting the same intel.
Yeah. So, I feel that we were purified to the very, very greatest degree.
Yeah.
Because when you're purified, you realize you're just the instrument.
Yeah.
You're just the instrument. And I make it conscious every morning that I say, I'm the instrument. Please use me in the highest and best ways for the highest good of all. Because this life is not about me. It's about the greater master plan coming into fulfillment.
Yeah.
And that to me is also why one doesn't need to defend oneself.
No.
One doesn't need to try and blow your own trumpet in whatever form or way. Because all is now going to come into place exactly as it should be. But as long as we think that we can direct our lives, whatever form or way, we actually sort of strangling ourselves. It's almost like, you just are there to transmit, to be used, whatever form or way. It's to me, that is really what the power of love is all about. It's to understand that if you allow yourself to be used by the greater universal whole, it flows through you and into the greater whole. Nothing is blocking.
Right.
It's
That's
one
right.
flow. That is why when you took that universe and brought it to earth, you also had to surrender it.
Yes.
Because it's too big for you.
Yeah.
It's too gigantic, and our mind goes, this doesn't understand it. But if you allow that to flow through you, you become one with everything.
Yeah. That's what it, and I've gone back, 4 or 5 times just to, I'm here. I'm actually, I don't have to go back. I'm here. It's weird. It's like an elevator or something. But yeah, but that's still the human thing. I feel like, and that's why where I'm going to go with that piece I was reading earlier is, I've always had this, it would come out of my mouth in the early days when I would just be doing my thing. And I'd say, we are bringing the human hybrid soul species into the universal family. Like it's like a graduation or something. It's like Franco said, well, no, it doesn't have a soul, but kind of. I believe that. I feel that we're actually, this is why it's such a great thing. This is an ascension that hadn't occurred before, or maybe we were the last ones to the party or something. So as we've been looked at, a lot like our lives, right? As we've been looked at and judged, like all kids, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that, and all these, that's what I was writing about. Every one of these incarnations that I was shown, from Lyra to Sirius to Pleiades to etc., they all have a certain bias and prejudice and specialty, and they have the dark and the light and the gifts and all that. But I carry, that's my branch of the tree of life. I carry all of that. And we're essentially taking the best of everything and trying to, I like what you said, try to stuff it all into this human body. We don't even have to do that. We are that. It's so weird, because it's just awareness. And then it makes you wonder, okay, because this is where I've gone. It's like, okay, well, this loop is coming around again. I'm in the same streets, and but it's an energetic message. It's a metaphor. Whatever it takes, I can do that. I know I can. So then I started having these scenarios. What if the internet goes out? And let me say this right now. If the internet goes out after this show, and I never am able to get on again with any of you all, we are connected. We're being taken to a point where we are going to be offered the impossible, miraculous, or what we've been dealing with. I don't think that's going to be a hard choice.
I had such a laugh because the other day I was really getting so frustrated with ESCOM. And what I do is I go and call in the intergalactics, starting the other half up there. And I said to him, listen, I'm really getting fed up with this humankind now. I said, you people, they can actually, I said, these people, they just don't understand. I said, all the power is there already in this earth, They can actually go and use it, and get us all freed of this whole jolly grid, Everybody will have enough power, for everybody to get. I said, why don't you intervene? And they stood there, they laughed. And they said, we can't master the lessons for you.
Yeah, that's right.
And to me, that was just, again, the whole idea that until we master ourselves, we can't master anything else.
That's right. That's right. And we can't master ourselves by judging.
God. Yeah. And the thing is, then I realized, I must rather bless than actually criticize and judge. Okay.
Yeah.
It's to me, that was also a metaphor, that you are not helpless.
Yes.
One is not helpless.
Right.
One has all the power within oneself. And as you say, if the internet goes, because that is the next thing that will go, and the financial systems are going, according to Greg Braden, and the USALA is one of them. And to me, that actually sit, and funnily, that is what came up this last 2 weeks for me. And then I realized, I've been, for all that happened to me in my life, I've always been taken care of.
Right.
And the greater systems cannot come in as long as these old systems are there.
That's right.
And yes, everything is in the state of collapse. But remember, I was always told this when the internet first came in. I said that I was told that the internet was given to humankind so that light workers would find each other. So in others, we can communicate across globally, which is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we don't really need the internet
Mm-hmm.
because each of us is a broadcaster anyway. And if people are meant to find you, they will find you anyway because there's no limits.
Wow.
There's no limits to anything. There's some things that I cannot even put into words because to me, that's the greater thing is because we're not limited to even this planet. We can communicate intergalactically and universally. There's nothing stopping us. But you can only access that through your higher self and through that intergalactic call, a soul that you in truth are, the I am. Because in truth, as we go through this whole transition, the core knowledge is never lost. I was always told that just because when the Cathars were so annihilated in the greatest genocide that ever happened in France, southern France, when they saw, that they're letting it, their souls actually vowed they would take all that knowledge within themselves and they would return at this time to bring that knowledge back.
Yeah.
The same happened when Atlantis fell. They took it into their souls. Atlantis is not going to happen again, except in the old matrix.
Right.
We're dislodging from that now.
Yes.
So that, all of it, because that is the freedom that is there within each of our souls. But what amazing quantum shifts are happening when that happens. Because then we will finally return to our universal citizenship as a greater whole. Because this whole thing about yin and yang and the negative, positive will be balanced and in harmony again, like it was in the very beginning. And we are the pioneers now. We are pioneering that. And that's why it's so challenging.
Well, it's not like we haven't done it before, but yeah, this one's been challenging.
But they said to me, when you're incarnated, we could give you the general outline and the outcome of what would happen. But you had to pioneer the way.
Yes. I agree with that. I remember that. You know what it's going to end up like, but you don't know how to get there.
Exactly. And that's a difficult.
That's what. Yeah, you just said something that really touched me. And I forgot it. But I don't remember. I don't know. It's so strange, these last 90 days. It's like the experiences are like even in these shows, 60, I think we've done like 60 shows. And the energy is different. It's sacred. I get nervous. I never got nervous. 4,000 shows, I never got nervous, but I get nervous here. It's not nervous like, oh, I'm it's so new. And because it's not just me, it's not just Todd walking the streets and being connected. I think we all did that. That was the preparation you were talking about. Now we're actually playing together. And it's these little things. How can this one show right now in this moment have an impact that I think we would all agree would be bigger than the biggest story on the mainstream media? How does that happen? It happens through all these people, all these women all around the world, grounded to the earth, been doing grid work all these years. What do you think that is? See, that's what's coming. One of the things I've been playing with, trying to figure out exactly how to do it, because it's coming in. I think a lot of us are getting creative urges, is to put together, like documentary style, the story of Judith and Sandra and Marcella. And did you know that there's these women all over the world that for the last 10 and 20 and 30 years have been talking to Mother Earth, have been talking to the star family, do grid work? What's that? Let me tell you what it is. And then show clips of it. I mean, like that's what's happening. That's what's happened. This Pleiadian energy that came in, started coming into our sessions middle of last month. As it's progressed, it just keeps going and going and going. I'm like, wow, this is wild. Everywhere I turn, I see Pleiadian. And a couple of days ago, I was just shown something, and it was basically how it's a matriarchal planet. And it wasn't a good thing, bad thing. It was just saying, this is what you're feeling. This is what's coming. This is the part that's needed. And I'm like, well, yeah, yes, we know where we're going. Yeah. It makes it a little bit easier.
It's the feminine Christ returning, the feminine Christ.
Yeah.
And the Pleiadians have always been involved with this planet from the very beginning as co-creators. They brought the plants, they brought the trees, they helped to put the grid systems down, the energy lines and so on. They also hold the temples of light in them. The Pleiadians are the master botanists of the things. And also the Halfels, the 7 Halfels, the goddesses of creation. They were Pleiadians, yeah.
I've seen them before.
They also hold the power of love. That they are the ones, the only temple in Egypt that I really felt love in, and that beautiful vibration of oneness was in the Halfel temple at Dendera. And the Isis Island, the original Isis Island, that's now nearly submerged in the Aswan Dam. And that is why they're working so intensely now. And I mean, even the Dalai Lama said that the great shift is coming through the woman.
Yes.
And that's a lot of, and I felt that immensely in the last few weeks, is that you must remember that the woman was so persecuted. Any woman who was a healer, any woman that was any form or way, was energetically involved in some form or another, or spoke out, they were burned at the stake. They were burned alive. They really squashed them, since Atlantis. Yeah. And now they just quietly came in and did the work, and they're still doing the work, very much grounded now, doing immense healing work. I was talking to some ladies here the other day that are really, they are working with the womb of the earth. They're working with the different energies in different ways that I've never heard of. But to me, it was like, okay, that they are following their call. And interesting that they are the ones now that are communicating across all sorts of, there's no boundaries. I mean, they're communicating with the trees. They're busy working with the sacred, it's bringing the sacredness back.
Right.
you know, as you say, it's a sacred energy. It's returning the sacredness of the core, not only of the earth and all of creation, but also within us, to nurture that sacredness that you are. You know, that your body is a holy temple, and not just your physical, your emotional, your mental, spiritual, all your bodies are sacred temples. It's the sacred cathedral that is holding your soul. But who of us has ever been told to actually nurture the sacredness of our temples?
Mm.
Who of us has ever been asked to create sacred spaces within our homes? That our whole home is a sacred space, or wherever we're living, we don't need to have a physical home. To me, that is a soul awakening in a greater degree, to understand that if we have soul and we are busy doing, what about the trees? What about the animals? What about the birds? What about every rock and leaf and part of creation? They are all now already being brought into the new earth. I get that message so loud and clearly. And I see the halos now around the trees and around the mountains and the sea. It's a new creation. Last year, as you said, was the Ruby Cliff Mountains. You know, I can see it in the way that nature is changing.
Yeah.
The energies now are higher than ever before. There's a huge awakening in those energy grids like never before. The crystal pyramid temples, there's so much happening. If we just would have the eyes to see, we would stand in awe and wonder. And we will say, thank you that we are here at this time. Because this is so momentous. I'm always told this has never happened before. Because remember, humanity was in the seventh. Now we fell into the fifth, that was Atlantis. And then we fell, lower than the animals.
The outhouse.
Yeah.
We fell into
And
the
now
outhouse.
we're rising again. We're going up now again. And that is why it's so difficult, because now we got to shed everything that was there.
There's you mentioned a few months ago, probably more than once, about the spine, and then this whole, this year's been so different, but so much in the body again and again and again. I had in March, I had this like flap open in the bottom of my tailbone, and it was reptilian related, or something had been blocked, and it started. And then I saw some other people writing about it, and then of course the activity at the top of the spine and in the spine and in the spinal column where the spinal fluid is, feeling all these different things. But one of the things that happened to me personally, and I have to believe, because it goes to what you're talking about, my lower back kind of fused, like to say the lower four vertebrae, when I was probably like 30, and it was debilitating for about 12 years. And it was very, very painful every day. Chiropractors couldn't work on that part of my back. In the last 3 months, the flexibility has returned to that lower region, which to me fits what's happening with the collective, because that root and sacral blockage or compression is being decompressed. I can literally feel at times, and I think, oh my God, is my spine going to break in half? Because it'll go snap, snap, and you can feel like air, like and I just think that's got to have some kind of a relationship to what's happening collectively. But are you having? I know you've had some physical things come up or whatever, but like, are you seeing the change in your body? Are you seeing like regeneration and stuff like that?
Yes, well, I'm putting it with my knee because I couldn't walk, so, but I am walking again, but it's getting there. That the spine is your power rod, your rod of power. It's not only a tuning fork, which actually, all the spine has got 33 octaves of sound. A lot of that sound is not audible yet to our ears, but we will be able to tune into the 33 octaves of sound again. And some of them, of course, the lower pitch, and then some the higher pitch as ever. And so in other words, it's a tuning fork, because and our spine also reflects that of the earth. So what it also is a lightning conductor. So in other words, it's a conductor for the electromagnetic forces, which of course is your electricity at universal level. It's basically the electromagnetic telluric energy, which people call the Kundalini energy, but in truth, the Kundalini is nothing else than the telluric energy fields, because it goes up and down your spine.
Right.
And then if all of that function, it becomes a rod of power. In other words, it gives you that power to stand in your mastery. A lot of people always think it's your chakras, but the thing is that this in the last 2-3 months, the chakras, actually, if you've got all your chakras open, or 12, you need at least 12 open now, and actually 15 are open now, that the chakras now fit into the spine, so that it's one unified field again. So in other words, we now being connected in a higher degree, not only to the spine of the new earth, but also to the which lightning rod is open. Okay. And then also that higher transmitters can now come through. If any part of that is blocked, you can't stand in your mastery, because the lower back here, that your pelvis area, is where everything is. It was a survival instinct that we had there, to survive and to flee, when predator prey type of thing, and
Right.
Also a sexual area where the most abuses come into, the misuse of the sexual energy. And it's also where all our connections with other souls are in, and the cords and ties and hooks are, whatever way it is. So that basement is now cleared out. It's cleared out. It's literally saying, okay, come on. Yep. And because if that basement is not cleared out, we can't step into our higher thing. Because if your spine is the first to ascend. It's very interesting. I was once speaking to a chiropractor in Paris, with a physician friend of mine in London. In any case, and he said to me, because I asked him about the spine, and he agreed that it was all of that, but he also said that that the spine is the last to be formed, where the fetus is in the body. In other words, when a mother is carrying the child, your spine is the last to be created. And I thought to myself, is that not beautiful? So in other words, that shows that we cannot have our new light body until the lightning rod is complete, the rod of power. So we actually have 2 spines now. We've got the physical spine, but also the light body one is already formed. That's why in Atlantis they implanted the control boxes right here in the cranium area, because it blocked it, you see.
Right. That feels.
Because you must remember that they put it here, then they also block your pineal and pituitary glands. And your pituitary glands is your gland of eternal life.
Yeah. How did we get so far out doing stuff like that? Or even just.
Well, it was the same old crowd that started the wars of heaven, that started the downfall of man. So but on the other hand, we allowed it to happen.
True.
You understand? Everybody played out their roles perfectly. And if if some souls choose not to ascend, no, that's their choice. Some choose to, then that is their choice. But you know what was once said when I spoke to the masters once, so Lord Melchizedek, I asked him, I said, why is it that some souls just, choose not to, go through that? And he said to me, well, it's all a part of their own choices. In other words, he said the soul at the core is always pure, but they choose to go through all of that in a greater degree to eventually get back into the truth that they in truth are. So maybe I always see it that in all the incarnations that we had on the planet, all that we experienced, we actually chose to go through that separation and the alienation from ourselves and others in order to regain our purity. And that's what we're doing now. But remember, that's only a fraction of your soul, because the other soul, 11 souls extensions are elsewhere in the universe working. And then, of course, you've got that's your oversoul, and then you've got your soul group. And some of us, it's 143 other souls. But if it's a greater soul groups like the Illumines and the Shining and the Graces and so on, they're 143,000, because it's a cluster group. And that is why, like with the Shining ones and the Illumines ones, the whole group has more or less incarnated again, because they're the ones that always held the light steady for humankind. And they actually vowed, they said, we will be here at this time and we will see humanity through. So that's the completion of the work now. And that's why so many souls are now in their last incarnation.
Yeah. I never would have agreed with that before, but I do now. No, I love this place, but I can feel it. There's just certain things, I just know. But I actually just wrote a piece like 4 or 5 days ago, and it was called "The Shining Ones," because it was an experience I had, which is really along the lines of what we've been talking about. But it was essentially. And I can only speak from my own perspective, but I was like, we are the shining ones. We are the ones that always know. We are the ones that, it went on, but there's so many, I don't know how to explain it, but like so many synchronicities, momentary experiences, glitches. Time is really freaky. Time and scheduling is really freaky. But it's all, so many times during the day it happens, and it's becoming commonplace. It's I don't know
that it's almost like one is in a different time space, because I find it very difficult to get through my work now.
Yes.
And then I actually myself, now what does the matter with me? And I realized actually that we time itself doesn't exist anymore. So we're literally no time.
Right.
Or what time that we always thought 24 hours is not that anymore.
Right.
We're about in 12 hours time. What it is. Because I realize now, about that flow, and allow it, because they say to me it's all part of it, of the illusions falling away.
Yes. I talked to Sandra Walter 3 or 4 days ago on the show, and she was talking about what we call work. And I'm like, I'm going through the same thing. It's like everything from what's the point? Does it matter? Why am I not getting more work done? To, I'm not being allowed to do these things. I can see it. I look at the schedule now. We used to have 30, 40 shows lined up, and there's a few. And they're not like all next together. They're just scattered everywhere. But it feels right. Nothing's, you know what I mean? But it's the only thing that doesn't feel right is I'm not used to this. But yeah, and then
I'm so
having
glad
this,
you're saying that because I
yeah,
was so this is strange, and it's actually it's totally different experience,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, it is. Nothing measures the same way.
Mm-mm.
You don't measure things the same way. It's not, it's really strange. And really, I have to be, for myself, really aware and present with myself and stay out of non-judgment, stay out of my head and logic. I know that's there, but there's something else that has to be in front of it, intuition, telepathy, whatever. I don't know what you call it, but it does. And then I look at, what would be the, like I said, the 12-year anniversary on the 7th of next month. And I look at that energetically, and there's a part of me that's 100% prepared to experience anything. Anything, take it away, food, water, whatever. I'm okay with that. But there's another part of me that says, don't we get to create some great stuff now? And then I just kind of hear like, there you go again, like surrender, just let go. Yes, it's bigger than you could ever imagine. So that's a weird place to be for me. And I'm sure other people like to have, especially like someone in your situation where you're having that electricity being shut off. And then of course the, whatever the word is, I don't want to say hypocrisy, but the blatant in your face, oh, the elite get to have it all the time. Like that guy in France wearing what was it, a $10,000 watch, or telling everybody they need to, take a cut back. It's funny.
Yeah, the time has come, whatever way you look at it.
Oh yeah.
They played out their roles perfectly, and that stage is being cleared.
Yeah.
The actors' roles are being scrapped, and the movies are going to get scrapped too. They played
Yes.
it. All of us have played it, not just them. We
Yeah,
all
of
played in
course.
those movies.
Of course.
We all
Yeah.
played in those movies, every single one of us. And to me, it's quite amazing times.
Yes.
Quite amazing times.
Let me
I
ask you.
was speaking
Go.
to an IT guy the other day.
Uh-huh.
I heading here, and very interesting because I asked him what is the cloud, and he was explaining to me what the cloud is, where they store everything in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, so he was explaining to me, what it is, and that they store all these things in warehouses, big warehouses, and that whatever, and so on. So I said to him, well, why don't they store these things energetically? If you talk about the cloud, why do you cloud it? They put it in a cloud. And it's not supposed to be physically, but you see, that's me going intergalactic. He looked at me and he said, well, it's a storehouse, it's got these things. I said, yes, I know. But they said, you don't really need that, but in any case, but you see, I confuse these guys because I always go up with my mind somewhere else, and see in the future, because that is exactly what they do, cosmically. They store it in energy fields. You don't need to.
That's right.
And that is what I've always told. I said everything is recorded and everything is stored in energy fields. Because that's what I basically do with my soul readings. I tap into that. It's not the Akashic field that they always talk about, because that's a planetary, a level.
Okay.
But you have the universal one, like you now going up in the universe and actually tapping into that knowledge. Every universe has got their own memory bank, and it's all energetically stored. And the beauty of it is that as soul, you can get into those records. Because how do you think that the intergalactic fleet and everybody works? They don't need computers.
Right.
The computers were just a way of us to learn to store information. But the cell phones and all those things will disappear anyway because we don't need them.
Right. Wow. Lots of downloads. Oh, I was going to ask you one other question. Do you think that, I mean, we know that the humans are not the only physical beings, and I'm only speaking of like humanoid type. But above, below, besides us, whatever, they're part of this. They're a part of what we see or what's shown to us. They're a part of the Ukraine war. They're a part of the financial system. I mean, it's all there. It's all us. And do you think that we'll see, let's just say, other aspects that we haven't seen in mass as part of this deconstruction and revealing? Because I think for the first time for me, I'm going, you know what, we might be seeing this. And I don't just mean like in our personal lives when we do sessions and stuff like that. I mean like where we start to see things that have been hidden, I guess.
Well, all that information is starting to come out.
Yeah.
It's all starting to come out now because they can't hide it anymore. And there's no need to hide it. I mean, people are not, there's many people that go through life with blinders on and finding it because they choose to go with blinders on. And that is the role they're playing out, whatever. But I mean, the ones that are really, if you really want to know what's going on, it will also, the information will come to you. I found that all my life, I would ask a question and then suddenly the information would appear,
Right.
would it appear in the form of the book or me just switching on the radio or even like, the internet, and then it will suddenly appear. I often laugh because I ask a question and then the next thing in YouTube or Gaia, something will come up, and for myself, oh, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of ways confirming, we actually do not know the power of our own soul. You actually start to understand that you are a universal soul. You can tap into any knowledge.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I've never seen so many of the intergalactic fleet like I have lately.
Really?
In the last period, they are here in droves.
Wow.
And they cannot hide that anymore either. And they have always been involved with this planet, like the Pleiadians and everybody else you mentioned. Have been here before the planet was even created, because the inner Earth was a satellite station of the intergalactic fleet. There are highly advanced beings out there, intergalactic races that are you could say they have been involved with this planet from the very beginning. Yeah. Okay. But the thing is, what I'm always told is that the souls that are on this planet actually agreed to take part in an experiment.
Yeah.
In other words, that is why it's the greatest learning curve or learning school of the whole universe. That's why it's so tough. Okay. But we also chose our experiences. And there's something beautiful about this. Because even now, when we have to step into the unknown, we are pioneering consciousness.
Yes.
In the whole omniverse, which has never been done before. And that's why they're so interested now, because they're helping us in so many ways, the souls that are awakened, because they will always read your intent, the ones that are pure. There's, of course, the ones that also serve the other side, because they have with the walls of heaven that crowd there. But remember there, if you take the background away from the stars, you won't see them. You need the indigo background for the stars to shine all the brighter. So they serve in their own way. But, and that's the but, you go on the internet and you will see that since 1940, the USA has been heavily involved with these beings. I know when I worked in the library, there were many, many books on it.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's not there. It's just
no.
most people just don't bother about it or whatever, or they shoo it away, or they block off their minds or whatever and say it doesn't exist and so on. But if you look in ancient things, they see that you will even find them in pictograms and whatever, from alien people, from people that were there thousands and millions of years ago.
Yeah.
So it's not that they were not there. They've been there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just, that, I mean, even in Atlantis, they had space stations.
Yeah.
And whatever. And so, and they still have their space stations here. They never left. They have them. So to me, it's always that they monitored us. Not in a. Think about the judgment now, okay?
Right.
Because you see, the greatest gift the divine ever gave a soul was free will and choice. They may not intervene with our free will and choice. They can help us, they can assist us, they can guide us, like the ascended masters too, but they're not allowed to intervene.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they cannot make some things, not work.
Yeah, no. That's coming in.
That you see, there's a difference there, because if you know that, for them it's very easy, to just make out of it. The thing malfunctions or whatever, it doesn't work that way. So we do have no notion of how evolved these beings are, and they look like us because they actually, it's where we come from.
Yes, I saw that.
And actually they're beautiful beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had such a laugh because we were in the Kruger Park and we were at this place, and I was really connecting there to all these ancient sites or whatever they are, and doing energy work there. And then we were led to this beautiful place, which is a dam that they built there, to just, it's like a reservoir. And standing there, and we're looking at the turtle that was there. That's what actually, and then Lynetta was with me, said, look up, look, we've got company. And there they were. I've actually taken a photograph. So I knew, of course, who it was, really happy about it. So we get back in the car, we're driving, because I joked with her. I said, oh, well, don't worry, they can take over control of this car very easily. And I was joking. The next minute, they took control of this car.
Wow.
I was not in control of that car. I was driving, and I knew that. I was just laughing.
It'll be good to laugh when this is over. Yeah, you just said something too about that.
I need a sense of humor. They were laughing, we were laughing, we're just having a good time. But no, it was just for a little distance in any case.
Well,
but have you not in your life often felt that you've been in a certain place and suddenly you lose track of time?
Yeah.
You lose track of where you were. You sort of find yourself about a few hours later, and you're suddenly thinking, where was I? There are many reports like that.
Huh?
We just go into a different multi-million, and that is easier now than ever before. You see, if you are in the very dense 3D, you cannot do that. The more conscious you become, the more open you become, the more you're transmitted, John. You are multidimensional.
Yeah.
Excuse me. There is no limitation. You can switch dimensions and frequencies quite easily.
I guess it really comes down to how open your heart is.
Yes.
Really. I mean,
and they will not work with humanity where the heart is not open.
Yeah.
The really evolved Christed races will not do that.
Yeah.
Because they do read your intents. And they always say the greatest lesson humanity has to master is not only themselves, but also to realize that war never solves anything. And that was the great lesson of the wars of heaven.
Are we the echo?
Yes. You know, when I do my soul readings lately, the wars of heaven come up very much so. And it's also the trauma, like with the lion people, like those from Lyra, who lost their home galaxies. There's even, you know, there were 12 master galaxies in the beginning that were created. They were the first ever created galaxies. And we were that. We are that. Okay. That's why we're the real son and daughters of God. Imagine that you are a son of God. You're a daughter of God. And that and there were 12 central suns, because the first master galaxies belonged to that specific, you know, sun that it was is. These central suns are like huge hubs of knowledge, of divine knowledge, of infinite core power. I can't find words to describe them. But those 12 master galaxies, there's only 7 that remain. The rest were blown up. And what they always tell me is, you must remember that if you have a universe, you've got a counter universe. If you've got a galaxy, you've got a counter galaxy. If you've got a solar system, you've got a counter solar system. You blow up one and you blow up the rest. You blow up a planet, it blows up the solar system blows up the galaxy blows up the universe. It has a ripple effect. And that is exactly what happened in the War of Heaven. It was the greatest chaos that ever was created in creation. And they said this will never, ever happen again.
Yeah. Feeling that.
And if you think of it, the greatest war always goes on within oneself.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, the time of prejudice and bias, there's no excuse. It's not, oh, I need to get over this. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's not linear. That's all I'm saying. It's not linear. But God, you said this earlier about last year, that 10-year period. That was the work. We did it. We did it. We did it. Right? I mean, we did it. And I keep getting this message, and I understand it now because I've been getting it for a long time this year. And it was, you have already completed what you all set out to do. So now take that and run with it. I'm like, okay, well, you just told us to leave social media. What do we do with this thing called Soulogy? And they're like, it's not the same. What you're doing now at this point of the spiral, it's not the same. You're not going to have the resistance. You're going to have immediate reciprocation. You're going to be able to see it. It's just your belief systems. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. But then I just compare it to, well, I could be walking the streets tomorrow and I'll be fine. And where it's tricky is, okay, are we going to use, like the financial system, the internet? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just get up every day and go moment by moment and make your contribution, so to speak, because something's building. And what I might have referred to as the non-physical. It's not non-physical. It's actually physical. I can't see it yet. And I think what you're talking about today on a variety of things, the spine, the sacredness, the sanctity of life, the when you get up in the mornings, what you do in the mornings, reaffirming. I try to do that every morning for at least 10 or 15 minutes. I saw a video last night of Wayne Dyer, and he was talking about that. He said the 5 minutes, the most important 5 minutes of the day are the 5 minutes you spend before you go to sleep. And it was the same thing. I am light. I am love, So, yeah, we are this is it.
You're doing great pioneer work, Todd.
Hmm.
And I didn't quite get it how your system works.
It's not,
but at that stage, it's a bit under pressure, and I didn't sort of go deep into it. But I must actually get the links again and subscribe because I have to.
Huh?
Yeah, please pop it to me again so that I get it right this time.
Yeah, you're in there. I've seen you in there.
Yeah, but I also want to support.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to talk to you about that. Yeah.
Because I've been actually for a long quite a time felt that the social media has done amazing. I mean, you can use it for this or that, and there's so much going for it. Yeah. But there has definitely been a change in the energy. I felt since the beginning of the year. There's a change in energy.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I can't quite define, put my finger on it. But it's almost like there is something, as you say, it's building up for something. I don't quite know what it is, but it definitely is building up for something. And to me, it was very interesting what Greg Braden was pinpointing to 2015, which is just a few months ago, if you actually think of it. That is the time.
What did he say? What's the date?
He said that the great collapse, whatever they feel, was predicted for 2015.
Oh, so we're
so
overdue.
I was led to that video. I normally just scan through YouTube, and finding them. Normally I listen to music, but when Greg Baden's things come up or certain sites, I always look. And then the title actually caught me, and I thought to myself, okay, let me listen to this. And it was profound what they were saying there. Yeah. And about communities coming together, because that's exactly what we've always been told. The communities will now need to come together, not only for that, but we also need to be self-sustaining now. In other words, the people that can do the agriculture and so on. We're going back to where the old mystery schools always had their own gardens, their own food production. They made sure they had water. They made sure that the community could survive. And we're not in a survival mood here. It's just a matter that we're going into holistic farming now. We're going into a holistic way of life, where we really only eat healthy, life-giving food. And we won't put anything in our bodies that is not full of light and full of love and actually nurtured in that respect. Like if you think of the Findhorn Gardens in Scotland, and Eileen Caddy, how she was actually guided to make out of the swamp area, made these beautiful gardens where they grew vegetables that were enormous and also very nutritious, following the guidance that they had. That is exactly what we will need to apply now. We actually are using. In other words, we work with Mother Earth now. We don't go against her. Right. We don't need to use pesticides. We don't need to kill anything, because we're only killing ourselves in the end, because the pesticides go into the water, etc., etc. To me, that is the beauty of it. We're going back to being connected as one to Mother Earth. And we nurture whatever we plant with love. So we start using the elementals again, and they start working with us. We start blessing the waters. We start blessing the air. We start blessing the fires. We start blessing the earth. because as we are sacred, the earth is sacred, and all beings upon her are sacred. And you know, when I worked with the animals and the Kruger Park, and they were communicating with me, the lions and the elephants, that is exactly the message they gave. They said, you fenced us in, you put boundaries in, you closed off our elephant parks. And we used to open the ley lines, the energy lines, by walking them. The animals are showing us a way. There's such love for human beings in them. Whenever human beings, you know, we're not kind to animals. But there's the animals, and they're ascending already. To me, that I have a great respect. Because the lions, for instance, connect directly to Sirius. And when they roar, those energy lines open. Let me tell you what, they connect us directly. The Lyra.
All of it.
It's the whales, the dolphins.
Yeah.
The whales, the dolphins has got highly advanced and evolved beings. It's humankind that when the fall came from Atlantis, that forgot that they were the custodians. That's what the Pleiadians are. They always brought all these species in, but they nurtured them. They looked after them.
Right. Yeah. I saw a video a couple of days ago, and it was a Native American gentleman who had heard the story from his grandfather, who heard it from his grandfather, and this man was in contact with many, many other tribes, like in the work that he was doing. And he said he has not met one that doesn't have the same story. And these would be indigenous Native Americans to North America, North America, that every one of them, like in his case, it's a mountain in Arizona that's a portal that the sky people would come through, and they were Pleiadian. That mountain, I don't know the name of it, it's in Arizona. The government took it over. I think the more I think about this, the more I realize that a huge part of the disclosure that I would think the general public doesn't see coming is going to be the memories, just as World War I and World War II and all that is in our memories, is going to be the memories of our ancestry, the whole story, because it is the same players that are presenting the illusion and conditioning and programming and all that. So,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep you 2 hours, but let me ask you one more thing. It is coming down to the human, and then you're in a situation where they're having a lot of difficulties because of the outages that are affecting, financially and everything. And you said people are helping each other out. I heard a lot of this during some of the other disasters, especially like the ones in Australia last year. You heard a lot of these stories where people were coming together before the government would even act. Are you also, is there also anger? Are people getting angry? Like, I know there's a lot of, it's not being shown a lot, but there's a lot of massive protests occurring throughout the world. Or is South Africa, you seen any of that? Is there a police presence or military presence?
Non-existent.
Non-existent.
Which well, I won't go into details there, but you must remember South Africa, in that Africa has got a beautiful heart.
Yes.
But unfortunately in South Africa, you've got the other part too. And that's violence and it's crime.
Yeah.
But, the heart of Africa is pure. And to me, it's beautiful the way that the soul of Africa is coming to the fore in all of this. And they have always helped each other. In Africa, if people see somebody's hungry, they will go and help them. They always have space for somebody else. They're willing it. I've seen it in the township with they've got the little that they have, they share. It's part of the Ubuntu. They say we're all in this together. We help each other. And it's the thing is, South Africans have got what keeps them alive and what keeps them is they have ability to laugh at everything. As long as you can see the humorous side, you can survive anything. And you must see the jokes that are coming out. This is actually very clever, the way that they make jokes of all of this and so on. And to me, that also shows that, in the core group, you've got to take your hats off for the African woman.
Yeah.
They keep everything going.
Yes.
They're the ones in the townships that go and also all over the country. They are doing social work. They are there for the heart of the people. They are helping people, even in the most difficult places and forms. They are there helping. They often, invent things in their communities, with what little funding they can get. They're really helping to grow vegetables, to grow roots, to see that. And, at grassroots level, the Africans will always help each other. And when I talk African, I'm not talking about the color or skin or whatever. It's always what my parents are ingrained into us and says there's always a plan. You make a plan. If something doesn't work, you make an alternative plan. There's always something that does work. And also you find that the innovativeness does come to the fore. As I say, they now using gadgets and they also have to whatever they can do is to help people to cope with all of this, like LED lamps, that we can recharge, or you start using gas, and instead of using electricity or gas stoves, you put that in, or you use solar panels or whatever. So the innovativeness is there. But the thing is also that people are now saying, enough is enough.
Yeah. Yes.
That we won't stand for this. They haven't sort of with the African people, they just start burning everything. They start getting cross. They just put fire to it, which of course is good because fire is also transmute. I don't say I'm not condoning the behavior, but I'm also not judgmental of it.
Mm.
To me, the most heartening is that young people are really putting their voice out now.
That's good.
They're getting savvy because they also say, hey, this is not good. You would think they want to actually bring in that new, it's a beautiful energy that is busy developing, at grassroots level.
Yes.
Because you can see that they really want to have a better form of life in their own way. And to me, that's beautiful, the way that they also have to balance their old traditions, with the new things that are coming to the fore. And it's also where the old divisions, even between, the Afrikaner and the English are busy evaporating between all the different tribes, because we've got 11 languages in South Africa.
Wow.
I think the only country we've got 11 languages, but it was to give everybody a chance to be heard, because when all of this was constructed, it was actually to give everybody freedom, that one was not more than the other. But unfortunately, you can, with humankind in the old matrix, you can take anything that is beautiful and put it there as the ideal, but until you get people in it,
Yeah.
then you start getting all the interactions with play. But I've always been told it's from Africa that the light will go out. And to me, I can't even define it. Music is in the soul.
Yes.
Music is in the soul. The dancing is in the soul. That connected to Mother Earth is the heartbeat of Africa. And as long as people can laugh, and as long as people can dance, and as long as people can sing, they're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I
if
like
you can make music together, and if you can sing together, and if you can dance together, you can't fight each other.
well, yeah, you can manifest. I mean, and you can do that anywhere.
You can do that anywhere.
Yeah, I did it.
Music speaks into people's souls like nothing
Yeah,
else.
absolutely. That's how I spent that 2 years. I spent that 2 years with what they used to call those, not a Walkman, but that very first thing had 24 songs on it. I used to walk around. I would go behind buildings and dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, music.
Yeah, it is something about it. I found that always so beautiful. With especially the African people. If they're sad, they dance. They can't make music without moving their bodies. It's natural.
Exactly.
They can't make music without moving their body. It's in them. You've got to start dancing. Even the little ones, the first thing they do is dance.
Yeah.
And if they start singing, they start harmonizing.
Yes.
The beautiful voices. I mean, I have sat and listened to them, and you just feel your heart opening because they have a natural way of singing from their soul. It's in their blood. They sing, and when they start actually singing and dancing together, they all harmonize. Everybody starts coming in and it's okay. Even if they do protests, they sing and dance. And I always felt to myself, that's the heart of Africa. And at Ubuntu, that is the heart of Africa. We are all one. So when we work together as one, when we all hold each hands, we create Ubuntu. Then no one is bigger or greater than the other. We are all one.
That's right. Circle of life.
Mm.
Yeah. It was good seeing you. And we didn't even get to talk about your book. I know you mentioned it a couple times. Well, I have your first book, or I think that was Africa was your first book.
Yeah, you must give me your address and I will send it to you.
Oh no, I'll buy one. We'll buy one.
Okay.
We'll support you.
This is Fran's book. It's like the Africa book. It's an A4 book.
Oh, okay.
And
cool.
it's got all my journey, my journals in. It's got my sketches in. It's got the maps in. It's got, whatever I came to do there, I put it in. And it's from Avalon. That means that's just after the Lion Kingdom, Avalon started. And then it's about the Druids, the 3 Druidic orders. It's about Mary Magdalene and the Cathars and the Templars. So it's actually a book that spans dimensions.
Wow. Well, that all sounds very familiar to me.
Yes,
So
it will.
it'd be like looking through a history book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get one.
As you can see, this map I had to draw up before I even went there. And I was told that I needed to follow those lines exactly.
Wow.
So it is. It took when France to me was a healing journey, because it was because I remembered that I was burnt alive with the only woman with 5 Knights Templars, and that became a quest because I wanted to know why I was the only woman between these 5 men that was burnt alive at the bishop's palace in Urgel in Andorra, what is now northern Spain, and southern France meets in the Pyrenees. And that became a quest. And at that stage, I got more and more recalls, of what happened, because I had recalls of me in a red dress. And now I understand that the priestesses always wear red dresses. Okay. And I actually had made an oath to my father, because there were 3 families involved that were very ancient, and they actually were like the guardians and keepers of that knowledge. And I was under oath that I would, make sure that these things would get smuggled out, when the crusade was launched, the Third Crusade against the Cathars, because they were Christians too, but they were purer than pure, and whatever. But the thing is, the knowledge that they held was not only Mary Magdalene's knowledge, that she was, because of the mystery schools that were there, very ancient, because Mary Magdalene was actually born in France from a Jewish family, a royal family. And they had property in France and they had property in Israel. So when she came back to her homeland. And in France, they've actually, everywhere they've recorded where Mary Magdalene went, even though this genocide happened, they still honor her. It never went in. You can go any church in France and Mary Magdalene will be first thing that you see. And with it, remember that the Templars also had her as her patron saint with John the Baptist. So this knowledge that they held was so ancient. It was from before the Lion Kingdom. And they held it there in the mystery schools in the Pyrenees. And when this crusade was launched, all the documents that they had, all the ancient documents that they didn't want the Vatican to get hold of, mainly because they burnt all of it, or they put it in the library and whatever, misused the information. And you must remember the Templars and the Cathars were one and the same, because they were the same families. And so I saw myself riding on this white horse with these documents strapped to me, making sure I was getting them out. We smuggled them out and the Templars helped. They were supposed to be neutral, but they couldn't be neutral because they were one and the same. And it wasn't just that, it was humans that we were also smuggling out. And I was often hunted down like an animal, seeking refuge in caves. And I was not the only one. We were doing massive work there.
I remember.
You were one of them.
I know. Stark times.
And the thing is, that is why when the last Cathars that were there, they said, we will return, but we'll get that information we will keep within our souls. And that's why we are here now, to return that knowledge. They had a type of, the bishop, the real bishop of the Cathars was Esclarmonde de Foix. She was a sister of the Count of Foix, highly educated woman, because they were unlike the rest of Europe. The women had the same rights as men. And they had the love courts, the troubadours. And that was actually the high order of the bards that still existed from Avalon and the Druidic traditions.
Yes.
And they actually, that the ideal was the ideal love, that pure love.
Yes.
And so the legacy that they had, and they were highly enlightened. They actually, through the Moors in Spain that now taken Spain up, they had all the connections. Like they brought algebra to Europe again. They brought the sciences back, the metaphysics, all that, the alchemists, that knowledge and so on, all was brought back again, and they were holding that. To me, they were like the illumined and shining ones. And that's why they all returned now.
Yeah.
And of course, the legacy that they gave back to humankind, or bringing back to humankind, goes beyond words.
Yeah, I have to read that book.
I will send it to you. You just bring me your address.
That's
And
somebody's getting, I'm not the only one getting chills here. Somebody said I'm covered in chills.
It's a multi-dimensional book. It goes
Yeah,
into the
yeah. Well,
and
yeah.
I didn't know what would happen to it, in a greater rings, because it took me years to write it, with all that happened to me in France. And I also have to release the trauma, that was stuck in the landscape, for all these souls that were killed there. I mean, they burnt whole cities alive, and 200, 300, 500 people at once.
Mm-hmm.
What they did to the woman goes beyond description. It came through in my soul readings, and I don't want to judge, but it shows you, what human beings are capable of.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just know, like from my own, and it's all the same as, I mean, even when you did the soul reading for me, a lot of it, I was, the Druids, the Bards, the Cathars, the Templars. I always remember working for the mother, preserving the feminine, the mother energy, and being in a vast minority of men, and some of the same, a lot of torture, a lot of barbarism, whatever that word is, barbarianism. I mean, just sick. And then I remember at some level, energetically, having to go into the depths of that darkness to learn it so I could, serve in a capacity to heal it. And that's a lot. And I think a lot of that, I think there's certain things that the female incarnate tends to represent and be in the physical of what's happening energetically. I mean, you can see that with these communities, even this community's 85% your energy. And, and then there's certain things that demand us. And I feel like in the last, again, in the last 3 months, 3.5 months now, that a lot of the self-imposed sins that the man cast upon himself in his role in this distortion, that he gave his power up to, that a lot of that I feel has been released from the masculine, or at least from this man. And it's a lot, and it's nasty, and it's dirty, and it's filthy, and it's disgusting. But, I can only say that as a man, God, why am I even talking about this? But I had to, I think it would have been, it was either preparing for March, April, May, or right into March. And it was having to experience all of it as the rape child, as the rapist, as the executed, as the executioner. It was, I've never even talked about it. I told Morgan, I went so deep in some things I've not talked about it. But I feel like that yeah, like it was, I came out of it going, wow, the feminine part of me, the feminine part, I know what happened there. I know exactly what happened there. The goddess was removed, and so on and so on. but the male incarnate also had to, they weren't the bad guy. They were the tool, you know? And I think that's a big part of what you must have, well, the feminine, obviously, when you're in France, but also, like you said a minute ago, what they did to the women, but you have gotten to a point where you look at it from the proper perspective, the only perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some deep stuff. You just shook up the, you just shook me up. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah,
This,
that is the healing, the great healing
yes,
that
you
has
better
come.
believe it.
It is a great healing because, if you try to actually cut the mother out of anything, you're cutting out yourself.
That's right.
Because you couldn't be on this earth without a mother.
That's right. I got to tell you, that's
and that is exactly where the greatest healing is coming. It is the mother healing.
Yes.
The mother in all her forms, but also the mother within.
Yes. That's right.
And it's interesting because, as I say, from the feedback that they get from this book, is that it's healing. It's triggering the memory banks, at all different levels, and it's bringing in that healing, but also the release. It's almost like, okay, I release that now, and to me that's beautiful because I wasn't expecting that because I'm just the instrument. Right. So the book has got a will of its own. It's very interesting. But it's also fulfilling its purpose in that way. And I see that I had to come back in this lifetime in order to finally work that through in myself as well.
Yes.
Like you had to now in yourself also, because it goes very deep. It goes on to all layers, and it goes right back to the walls of heaven again.
Yeah. Yeah, I just experienced it. All the pores in my body just opened up. It was like I didn't drop a tear, but it felt like that. It felt like you call the purity tears. It was just, so it's the transparency of our history. You're not just a librarian in this lifetime. You're record keeper. It is deep though. That's a really deep route. That whole route, and the Essenes, and then the connection to Star Family, not just with the Essenes, but other of those groups. What a journey! And then to get to this.
So many strands.
I know. And then to get to this point now, and there's no time for victim consciousness anymore. We've all, it's, you know what I mean? It's like, what I just described, and I think what you're talking about too, obviously, is actually owning every part of it. Oneness isn't just the fluffy. Oneness is acknowledging all the shadow within ourselves, within each other, and within the creation, and understanding through that is a higher experience, a new earth or whatever. And it really, what is it? How do we assist it? By bringing our peace back. And when you said those words, I had to come back to the final step, and I thought, wow, that resonates with me so much. So thank you, because I've been in that space, that space where your head's on a swivel, like, and sometimes I had those conversations like you have, where I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But boy, this sure puts it in perspective. We are really something else. We really are.
It's to dive into the deepest shadow and
Yeah.
the highest light
Yes.
and to find the whole.
Yeah. Yes.
You know,
Yeah, truly, because truly, if I cannot see past, say you or whoever, their shadow, there's nowhere else to turn now. I got to come back to me and say, why am I prejudiced? Why am I biased? Why do I think I'm superior or inferior? But even saying that, it's like that work, and I don't mean this to sound blasphemous or anything about shadow work, but it seems to me that work is done. And we can now work on applying the gold as opposed to licking our wounds back here. I think we have enough wherewithal in all our bodies to, even like for myself in self-evaluation, like you're lighting me up the whole thing, about the sacredness of the temple of the bodies and how that it is my body too. And I've made great strides, but there's still things I'm working on. But even if you take something like that, even if you have an addiction or a habit or whatever, one of the many things I believe that are written in these sacred books and like the Bible, they all have threads of truth, many threads of truth. And one of them in the Bible, the Christians talk about being born again. And of course that's been, kind of, distorted, but we can be born again at any time. We can at any time, any moment, we can, it's, you know what I mean? We can change direction. We can choose. Yeah, you really got me going. So now we're at 2.5 hours. Well, I did want to get into long plays, and change things up. God speaks wonderful.
That's the beauty of it, is that as we heal, others heal.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Somebody's mentioned shame, grief, massive to release. I woke up on the 11th of May. I had the most incredible, crazy day that ended with the matrix in my face. And I don't want to get into it because I don't want to freak people out. But it started, I woke up, something went off of me. I quickly put my clothes on. I got to go walk. I got to get by the trees. As soon as I started walking, I come this way. And I heard, shame is collapsed. And I felt it in my masculine bones, like what I was talking about earlier. And then I just got this thought in my head. I thought, oh, it's over now. Like with the shame lifted off of the masculine part of us, that was the functional part of what happened here. We know the truth. None of us are to blame. Watch out. And if you guys aren't scared now, Illuminati or whatever your names are, yeah, it's not hell's coming, heaven's coming. So, because that's how they got us. That's how they got us. The male was absolutely programmed right down to his relationship with the female. Shame. It's never good enough. You don't love enough. You don't kill enough. You know what I mean? Just like, what? It's such a relief to have that lifted, and such a I think it brought me to the point of sacred union in this incarnation. I'm not saying I've done it. I'm not saying I haven't done it. I'm just saying I experienced the father architect and the mother that's everything merge, and my body felt it 3 times. So I don't know what happened.
That's the ultimate.
Yeah.
It's not outside ourselves, it's inside ourselves.
Yeah. God. I hope one day I get to hug you in this incarnation. I know we've done it in other ones.
We probably meet to some time at some places.
Well, yeah, and then again, we don't even know how this goes. I mean, we could blink our eyes and we're walking into crystal cities and golden streets, and we're all going, oh my God, that was amazing. And I bet you that's what we do. We probably sit around and talk about it for centuries. Millennia, did you do that? You did that? Oh my God. It's so funny. I'll tell you this
sitting on the mothership, you know, meeting there, telling it whatever, say, hey, you see that planet down there? Hey, you know.
It's so funny. You know, my friend Franco, during this time last month, I went for a walk. And it was, I think it was on that day, actually, it was that May 11th. It was the craziest day. It was crazy. They were giving me all kinds of information personally and collectively. And it was just crazy. And it was a test. So I got to this coffee shop and I sat at a picnic table and Franco appeared in front of me. And I said, well, what are you doing here? And I was kind of in that place of where the human just got, you know, a bomb or a dump truck dumped on me, but not in a bad way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, oh, this is interesting. You know, like, so I'm sitting with it. The universe is talking to me, but it was kind of like when he did it before when I was in the back of that car. So I'm kind of like being in a sarcastic mood and he's laughing. Well, this time I wasn't sarcastic. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. You're showing up now, but you know, I'm okay with it. It's not bothering me. I'm good. You know, I know no matter what happens, I'm good. Like it was just a beautiful moment. And then he fell on the ground and started laughing. And I'm like, what are you doing? He said, you don't understand. He said, you have just now hit this frequency that because of our oneness, I was actually able to get into your shoes and live your whole life here in the last few minutes. As Todd Medina. And I said, well, what's so funny about that? He goes, I didn't get to do any of that stuff that you did. And I just got to experience it. It was a beautiful moment, crazy moment, you know? Yeah, it's been a powerful time, no doubt. I will reach out to you and I'll get you this and then also talk to you about on some other stuff and here in the next 24 hours. I'm actually going to go see my mother for the third time.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's
there's just love there.
Yeah,
Love.
it's just it made so much sense that the month ended because it started with the mother. It was Mother's Day, remember? Mother's and early in the month, and Pleiadians coming in, the Pleiadian gateway, and then to end with a dinner with my mother on the 31st, 6 years to the day that I saw her last. Can't ask for more than that.
A miracle.
Yeah. I love you, Judith. Thank you.
Love you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. See you
Thank
again.
you.
Take care. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.